So yes, request your ballot. You'll get it. It's safe, and every Floridian should know that.
Governor DeSantis talking to CBS 4 News exclusively, going on the record on mail-in voting. And this afternoon, President Trump, in a tweet, does an about-face and endorses mail-in voting, saying that in Florida, the election is safe and secure. Good evening. I'm Lauren Pastrana.
And I'm Carly Barnett, in tonight for Elliot Rodriguez. The governor's comments came in an interview with CBS 4's Jim DeFede, the first formal interview that he's done since the pandemic took hold. Jim joins us now with more of his exclusive interview with Governor DeSantis.
And Jim, words of confidence from the governor,
that's right? No, absolutely. And it's important to note that our interview took place yesterday before the president's tweet, in which he began talking about, the idea that, oh no, we can do vote by mail in Florida because it's everything's safe there. The governor echoed those comments when I spoke to him yesterday. Do you have any problems with vote by mail in the state of Florida?
Well, see, I think that this is important because I think there's a confusion. In Florida, if you want to vote by mail, you request, you call the supervisor, you send an email, you submit a form, and then they send it to you. I think the places where we've seen real problems, where it's just indiscriminate mail ballots being sent everywhere, flooding, regardless of whether you've asked for it or not. We do not have that in Florida. I do not support going to that model in Florida. I do think the model we have, where you can request, you don't have to be sick or out, you just, no excuse absentee. I think that that's been successful, and I think that it's had integrity.
We've seen problems in some local elections in South Florida where, with the virus, you may have trouble getting people into polling locations and staffing enough polling locations. Will you be encouraging people to actually take advantage of vote by mail?
Well, they should do that, but we also know there's a lot of voters who want to vote in person. I mean, that's just the reality. So we have made preparations to augment any of the poll workers and the staffing should there be shortfalls. And I've told the Secretary of State, and we need to have a lot of people ready on the ground. So yes, request your ballot. You'll get it. It's safe, and every Floridian should know that. But if you do want to vote in person, we're going to make sure the polls are open.
So, Lauren, Carly, obviously this was an important issue, but we also talked about the issue of vaccines. As we know, we're hoping to have a vaccine perhaps by the end of the year. And so one of the things I wanted to find out from the governor, does the state have a plan? The governor said he hopes that the federal government will take the lead in distributing any vaccine. But you and I both know that more often than not, the federal governments rely on the states to actually do it. So I asked him whether or not the state has a plan, and here's what he had to say. Have you given any thought to, for instance, more vulnerable populations? Should preference be given to African American, Hispanic communities, farm workers, for instance, and those sorts of things, as opposed to folks who may otherwise be healthy? Have you given any thought at all to the issue of the vaccine and how it should be distributed?
Certainly, elderly should be first in line, without question. And then other people who have some of the key medical conditions should be first in line. And I think that's regardless of community, and that should be the case. So people have asked me like, oh, are you going to get like the vaccine first? No, I'm gonna defer. Those folks should be first in line, not me. And so that's really where we're going to focus.
Should immigration status play any role in whether or not a person gets a vaccine?
No.
Jim, very important information there about the vaccine, but let's get back to vote by mail and election security. Why do you think the president has changed his stance on voter fraud with specific reference to Florida?
So this is very interesting. You have to understand that it was the Florida legislature almost 20 years ago that created the vote by mail system, did away with the quote unquote absentee ballots, changed the name to vote by mail, because Republicans have always believed they had an advantage by doing vote by mail in the state of Florida. It's been one of the ways in which the Republican Party has maintained power. And since the president has begun denigrating vote by mail, suggesting massive fraud with absentee ballots, we've seen a lot of Republicans not request ballots the way they used to. And let me just give you one statistic. In Florida, 600,000 more Democrats have requested vote by mail ballots than Republicans. I think those numbers scared the president and his team, who are trying desperately to win Florida, and I think that's why you saw the reversal.
Jim, thank you. A lot of ground to cover here. We will see you again at 7.